Here are 11 mistakes that you need to avoid at all costs when you're moving to Atlanta. The first one is not understanding the suburban sprawl of Atlanta. The very middle of Atlanta is very urban and like city, and you can walk everywhere when you live in the middle of Atlanta, but the suburbs of Atlanta have that suburban sprawl effect. Everything is very spread out, low density, lots of homes that are, not walkable. You're not going to walk to the grocery store when you live in the suburbs of Atlanta. And so this is super common throughout all of the suburbs of Atlanta. Pretty much you're going to be car dependent and you're going to have to drive, 5 to 10, maybe even 15 minutes to a grocery store. I know this is not the case in other parts of the country like Miami or New York or maybe LA. Everything is a bit closer together, especially for my family and I when we came here 30 years ago. The very first thing that we noticed was how much things are spread out here in Georgia. So like, for example, when I take my son to baseball practice, it's about a 30-minute drive just to get to baseball practice. Or when I go to gymnastics for my daughter, again, that's about a 20 to 30-minute drive just to get to all of these extracurricular activities. To get to the grocery store from my home is about a 10-minute drive. And so nothing is like 5 minutes away. Nothing is like super close around the corner. And that's really one of the trade-offs that you have when it comes to living here in Georgia. There's a lot more land and everything is a bit more spread out. People don't live on top of each other. There's plenty of space here, and it kind of brings about that like peaceful, tranquil vibe, because everything is not so densely packed together. But again, this also means that things are more spread out. What's up, y'all? My name is Victor with Atlanta Suburban Living, and we put out videos every week about what it's like to live in Atlanta and the suburbs of Atlanta. The next thing that is a big mistake that you definitely don't want to make if you're thinking about moving here is coming here to Georgia every time you want to see homes that are for sale. If you live in another part of the country, it would be crazy to have to come all the way over here just because you see a home that's on Zillow or Realtor or whatever, and you're like, oh, this house looks interesting. You're not going to drive or fly all the way over here just to see these homes. So this is what we do here at Atlanta Suburban Living. Give us a call, text us, email us. Feel free to ask any questions you have about moving here, but one of the main things that we do for clients out of state is we do these virtual tours. So we can come up with a list of homes and I'll go out to the home personally and either FaceTime you or Zoom call, and we can see the home on video so that you can confirm that it is the way it looks in the picture and make sure that it's the kind of house that you like. Number 3 on the list of mistakes you definitely don't want to make when you're moving to Atlanta is not checking for high-speed internet in your new home here in Atlanta. I know this is something that you probably have in other parts of the country, and everybody's like, yeah, of course we have high-speed internet. We don't have it everywhere here in Atlanta, and there are some parts of the Atlanta suburbs where like they're still using cable internet, and it's like it's not dial-up, so it's not super slow, but it's not high-speed fiber internet. It's only, I'd say about 75% of the Atlanta suburbs have that high-speed fiber internet. So definitely something you need to check before picking a new home. Number 4 on the list of mistakes you definitely don't want to make is one of the things that I see many people do, and it really breaks my heart when I see this. You don't want to expect a similar vibe or similar culture here in Atlanta compared to what state or city you are coming from. So the feel and the vibe of Atlanta is not the same as California. It's not the same as Miami or New York or Colorado or a different country. We have our own specific, unique culture here in Atlanta, as does each and every one of those cities. And so when you kind of come from another state and you're kind of expecting the same thing here in Atlanta, inevitably you're going to be disappointed because no city is the same. We have our pros and cons here in Atlanta, just like every part of the country has their pros and cons, but one of the biggest pros here is the culture and the vibe of Atlanta. So if you get nothing else out of this video, please, please, please understand that we have our unique feel here. And when you are relocating to Atlanta for work or for family or to find the lower cost of living, there is a different feel to Atlanta associated with that. Naturally, it's going to be a trade-off. So we might not have as modern a feel as California or as like beachy vibe as Miami, or we might not have the vibe of New York where everybody is very fast-paced. We're a bit more slow-paced here in Georgia. Sometimes I love that, sometimes I hate that, but that is part of living here. Everybody is a bit more chill than other major US cities, and so things are more spread out, and this is kind of the give and take of the city of Atlanta. And one of the reasons why so many people are moving to Atlanta is because of the culture and the feel of this city. And so number 5 on the list is just that. Number 5 is you don't want to ignore the Atlanta Southern culture. You definitely, when you're here, you want to get a taste of that. You want to become involved with that, especially if you're here to like figure out if you want to move to this area. If you're visiting and you're trying to do some research and figure out, do I want to live here in Metro Atlanta? One of the things you definitely need to do here is you need to check out some real Southern food. One of the best places for that is in Atlanta. It's called Mary Mac's. This is a super authentic Southern food, fills your soul. This is the kind of Southern food that Atlanta is known for. Also, you want to check out areas like Piedmont Park and Midtown and Buckhead. You want to go to these different areas. You can go to the aquarium, you can go to downtown Atlanta, but that's not really going to give you a good understanding of the culture of Atlanta. That downtown area is like the tourist part of Atlanta. The real genuine experience of Atlanta is more so a bit north of Atlanta. Like I said, Midtown, Buckhead, Mary Mac's, the suburbs of Atlanta. This is where you're going to see what the families are like and what the people are like. You're going to see what the downtown Marietta is like, or downtown Alpharetta. This is going to give you the best understanding of the Metro Atlanta culture, and you definitely don't want to ignore that. Number 6 on the list of things you definitely want to avoid when you're moving here is you want to be careful of the trees, especially the very tall pine trees that are close to your home. If you buy a home or you're renting a home and you have a very tall pine tree, anything like less than 50 feet from the home, you want to make sure that that tree is taken down, as pine trees tend to fall over very easily here. And every once in a while, there's a house on the news about a pine tree that fell on the house, and you obviously don't want to be in that house. Number 7 on the list of the mistakes you definitely don't want to make when you're moving here is that you don't want to focus only on the price of a home when you're picking what area to live in, because different areas have different benefits, and there are some super low price areas of Metro Atlanta where you might not find all of the amenities or the features that you want in your neighborhood or your area. And so these are some parts of Metro Atlanta where maybe the crime is a little higher or the public schools are not as good. And so there are a lot of different suburbs around Metro Atlanta, roughly 100 suburbs. There's not really a specific number. Everybody kind of has a different opinion of what city is considered a suburb of Atlanta and what city is not a suburb, but there are tons of cities around Atlanta and they're not all the same. So you want to kind of make sure that you have an area that does have that affordable living and the good schools and the low crime. And so this is something that you really want to make sure you pick the right area. Number 8 on the list of mistakes you want to avoid is you don't want to rule out HOAs when you're picking a new home or a new neighborhood here. I know in many parts of the country, the HOAs have like Karens who drive around in a golf cart and give you a bunch of shit about your grass height or your bushes. We don't do that here very much. It's not nearly as common as other states. The HOAs here, for the most part, are just trying to collect money to manage the common areas, the pool, the playground, the tennis courts, the clubhouse. These HOAs don't collect enough yearly money from the residents to also pay a Karen and a golf cart and a clipboard. It's not like that here in Georgia. So if you rule out these HOAs, you're ruling out like 75% of the houses. And that's obviously not going to help you pick the best home for your money. Number 9 on the list of the 11 mistakes you want to avoid. And actually, I've got a bonus one at the end after the 11th one. So make sure you catch that one. But number 9 on the list is misjudging the weather. This is even a common one for people who have lived here for a long time, like myself. Like in the morning, it can be 40 degrees. And then by the afternoon, it's like 65 degrees and sunny. And we need to change clothes and it's super complicated. We wear a lot of layers here in Metro Atlanta, especially in the spring and fall when the temperature changes a lot. Layers are your best friend. Number 10 on the list is super important. If you are a senior in many of the counties around Metro Atlanta, you don't have to pay for the school portion of the property tax. So for example, in Cobb County, 65 years or older, you don't have to pay for that school portion, and that makes up like half of your property tax bill. So instead of having a $5,000 per year property tax bill, you have a $2,500 per year property tax bill. Absolutely a huge savings, but not all of the counties in Metro Atlanta do this. So you want to make sure that you pick a county where you can get that benefit. Number 11 on the list, I think we're on 11. I actually have lost count, but this is 11. And then we've got the next one is the bonus one. But number 11 on the list of mistakes you don't want to make is you don't want to take too long to build community in Atlanta. This is a very safe place, very family friendly atmosphere all around Metro Atlanta. And if you move here to Atlanta and you don't build community, it's going to be very difficult to get used to the lifestyle here, the culture here. The fastest and best way to get acclimated to new areas and any new part of where you're moving to is going to be building community, getting to know your neighbors, getting involved in the community. This is going to be the best thing and super important if you're moving here to Atlanta. And then the bonus mistake that you don't want to make is failing to take advantage of all of the green space and the parks that we have here. There are so many great things about living in Metro Atlanta, and the amount of parks and green space here is probably more so than any other major US city. This is a huge part of living in Metro Atlanta. But of course, whether or not you move here has to do with a lot of factors. And one of the biggest factor is what the cost of living is like here in Metro Atlanta. Like if the cost of living is way higher than where you're currently living, then you might want to reconsider. But if you can get a lower cost of living here in Atlanta than where you're currently living, then it might be a great deal. So I've made an entire video outlining the cost of living here in Atlanta and what you can expect for monthly expenses. You can check it out right here. I'll see you in the next video.